Hey guys, Sam Hartman here, keeping it real estate. Thanks for joining me for another deep dive on a real estate. bleh. Hey guys, Sam Hartman here, keeping it real estate. Thanks for joining me again on another deep dive into a real estate topic. And today we are talking about housing affordability. Hopefully I have a great message that's going to encourage home buyers to stick with it in this competitive market, and maybe encourage buyers that are maybe standing on the sidelines wondering if now is a good time to consider buying home or to actually dive into this housing market, to help encourage them and give them some information to kind of make the best decision for them and their families. So stick with me here and let's get into it. So I want to start by kind of comparing two terms when talking about housing affordability. And those two terms are affordable housing and housing affordability. They sound very similar, but affordable housing, that term is really the perception in consumers' minds of what's affordable, what's out there. Now, this is purely based off perception in buyers and in consumers' minds, whereas housing affordability is a true index that measures the affordable housing and the housing affordability over years, over time. And those are looking at a couple of things to measure in that index. One, it's looking at interest rates. Two, it's looking at housing prices. And three, it's looking at incomes and salaries over time and everything as well. So one of the things we're gonna do a couple of quotes that I'm gonna pull up from an actual report from the Urban Institute, Mike Lofton, and the report that they made is actually called Homeownership is Affordable Housing. And so we're going to be talking and kind of comparing this index and trying to give you guys the information to show, really try to get that perception, give some data behind it, give some context to it so you can make the best decision for you about what is affordable housing to you and what is the right decision to make, whether deciding to rent a home, rent an apartment, or to dive into the house buying process and market as well. So that's what we're going to dive into. We're going to start with this housing affordability index. So again, the Housing Affordability Index is measuring interest rates, home prices, and incomes. And this particular bar graph is going back over 30 years, back to 1990. And you'll see in the orange section is kind of highlighting the high affordability levels that happened during the housing crash. Now, you might think that maybe those aren't as high as you would expect. Well, keep in mind, interest rates weren't as low in that time frame, and also the economy was taking a huge hit during that time frame as well. So even though house prices really looked affordable in historic terms, the affordability was not quite as heavy as you might have expected. Clearly hitting a peak at 197. The higher a number on this index, the more affordable homes are. So even during crash years, the highest affordability index rating was 197. And if we look at today, the blue bar all the way to the right, we're sitting at 174. And so all I hear buyers and consumers talking about is just how intense this home buying market is, how wild and crazy home prices have gotten. But keep in mind, interest rates are extremely low. As we come out of the recession, incomes are improving, jobs are improving. People are having the flexibility to work from home, which is allowing them to maybe move out of a more expensive area and into a more affordable area like Fort Wayne, Indiana. So these are things to keep in mind and to look at, as the affordability index shows that even though prices are increasing, the affordability of a home is actually still very, very high. So what does that really mean in the grand scheme, affordability, how much you're spending on a home? Here's a great comparison of a couple of different eras of the percentage of your income that it would take to buy a median priced home. And so going back a large chunk of the era, kind of 85 to 2000, that's a 15-year period, the average was 21.2% of a median income used to purchase a median priced home. During the recession, or leading up to the recession and to the housing crash, that increased to 25.4% in 2006. That was kind of the peak of the bubble, kind of before 2008, 2009, where prices started to come down. But looking at today, 14.4% is the average percentage of your income being used to purchase a median priced home. So you're seeing comparatively to other eras of a housing market, you're using less of your income to purchase a home, even though prices are continuing to increase. So I said we were going to quote a couple of things from that Homeownership is Affordable Housing report that was done by the Urban Institute. That's Mike Lofton that we're going to quote here a couple of times throughout this video. And his first quote that I want to run to is this: contrary to popular belief, owning one's own home is frequently more affordable than renting. It is cheaper to buy a home than it is to rent in 2/3 of American counties. So, Mike is just highlighting here kind of a continued fact of the matter that's kind of been consistent across the history of the housing market is it tends to be more affordable to buy a home than to rent a home. Now, there are often other concerns that buyers have about buying and why they choose to rent, and some of those are valid and reasonable. But I want to look at another graph here that's going to maybe highlight some of those differences. This is the share of your income spent on housing, renters versus ownership. And so it highlights a couple of different income levels here. Clearly, the less income you have, the higher percentage of your income you're spending on housing. But throughout all income levels, 26% of your income is being spent on rent for renters. 16% of your income is being spent on owning your home. Now, one of the biggest concerns I hear from renters about their fear of home ownership is the cost, the hidden cost of home ownership, the repairs, the unknown things in the future that you have to budget for and save for to do those types of things, which is an understandable concern. But when we look at this data, when we look at the affordability of owning compared to renting, this is a 10% difference across all income levels. So that's 10% of your income that you could be investing in other avenues, or you could be saving for those repairs or for that rainy day fund. Or, God forbid, you could be updating the home, customizing the home to your personal preference and your needs and your wants, adding equity to the home by making those improvements, which renters are almost never allowed to do. You're not allowed to paint a wall. You're not allowed to buy new appliances. If you do buy appliances, they become the landlord's appliances now. You don't get to update the flooring to what you want it to be. So these are kind of some of the added values of home ownership. And this is some of the savings of home ownership compared to renting as well. Jumping back into that report and a quote from Mike Lofton, buying a home is not a decision between investing in real estate versus investing in stocks, as financial advisors often claim. Instead, the home buying investment simply is converting some portion of an existing expense, which is renting, into an investment in real estate. Here's what I think is super interesting about this quote and a really great kind of thought topic to munch on for a little bit. You're not spending money that otherwise would be spent on investing in stocks or investing in a business or anything like that. You're already paying for housing. You're paying rent to rent a home that is going towards a landlord's mortgage and paying for the home, or going into the landlord's pocket. So you're not taking that money and renting instead of investing in stocks, bonds, or anything like that. So really, when you buy a home, you're just converting this sunken cost of rent that isn't going towards any investment and turning it into an investment, something that's actually working for you. So as we look at the housing market, typically housing appreciates, let's say in a conservative market, 3% a year. So you're going to gain equity by owning that home with general appreciation year after year, but you're also building equity by making your monthly mortgage payment and paying the loan balance down, 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 year after year, payment after payment. You're building equity in two ways. And that equity is what leads to wealth for homeowners. There's a great statistic out there that I saw. I'll see if I can find the graph of it, but homeowners actually have a net worth of 40 times more than the average renter. So, and this equity growth is how homeowners are building that wealth. So I love that quote by Mike. It's a great kind of thought to chew on and think about, because this rental payment isn't going into any sort of investment. You can simply convert that into an investment and still provide a value to your family by having a roof over your head, having a comfortable living situation in owning a home. Mike's next quote further highlights the growth of equity and the benefit of home ownership as you pay that mortgage down over the years. The quote is, "The final meaningful financial benefit of home ownership is what I call the affordability big bang. After a homeowner household makes its final mortgage payment, its 361st payment drops tremendously because there is no longer a principal or interest portion. Instead, you're only left paying the taxes and the insurance payments. This is home ownership's affordability big bang." So what he's saying there is, no matter what your term is in your mortgage, say it's a 20-year, say it's a 30-year, once you make that final payment, that mortgage is paid in full, and the only cost you have as a homeowner is the taxes, the utilities, the insurance that you have on those, and then the typical repairs, which are going to be substantially less when you're not paying the mortgage anymore as well. And so that gives you a windfall of additional income monthly to put towards other avenues, other expenses, other enjoyments, other investments, anything like that. And so when you rent a home, if you rented a home for 30 years, at the end of 30 years, you have nothing to show for it. But when you buy a home, you have a fully paid off asset, an asset that is continually to appreciate, and an asset that you can leverage for other financial means and building wealth and making investment as well. Final quote from Mike here is, "We need to stop seeing housing as a reward for financial success and instead see it as a critical tool that can facilitate financial success. Affordable home ownership is not the capstone of economic well-being, it is the cornerstone." I really love all of those quotes by Mike. I think it helps paint a really great picture of the value of home ownership and the importance of home ownership. That last quote, it's not a capstone of wealth, it's a cornerstone of wealth. So capstone being the end of something, it's not the culmination of wealth. I've built wealth, now I can finally buy a house, but actually it assists homeowners in building their wealth and getting to the next stage of wealth and building wealth over a lifetime. So that's one of the things I love about working in real estate, helping buyers plan for their future, helping them build wealth and make great financial decisions for them and their family. If you do have any other questions for me, make sure you reach out. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to help you plan kind of for the next stages and phases, and just get you to a point where you feel comfortable with the information that you have in making a decision in either moving forward or moving backward, or figuring out really where you stand right now based on the current situation personally and with the housing market. Information is power. And so I wanted to make sure you guys have this information to make the best real estate and best financial decisions for you and your family. So make sure you check back. We're always keeping it real estate. We'll be back soon with another great real estate topic to inform you guys about, and make sure you guys are getting all the great context and data that goes along with that. Thanks, guys. Make sure you keep it real estate.